Are you looking for a podcast where you can hear from real people regarding their real dental drama? If so, then you've come to the right place. Join hosts Bethany Petty and Dr. Rena Kuba as we dive into the solutions we've created and the mistakes we've made while managing dental drama. Let's get started.
So I would like to talk today about kind of the bread, butter, bolts foundation of dental drama. Every day, everybody listening can, will relate to this. This is why we kind of created this podcast. But team members, accountability, we're trying to steer our ship in one direction, and then suddenly we are being blown away to another direction, and before we know it, we haven't even realized we're off course. I was trying to go to Hawaii, but somehow I am in the Bahamas. I don't know what just happened there. And so, it's just easy to kind of hum-ba-dum, look at the waves, look at all these new patients, look at our dentistry, we hit gold this month, hum-ba-dum, life's good, whoa, where the hell are we? And so you brought up an example that I would like to talk about with one of your clients that you mentioned this, but I just laughed when you mentioned it because I was like, oh, been there, done that. I'm probably in it right now and don't even realize that I'm not in the right course. So now I'm like, oh, I better stop and re-examine and look at my compass because I'm assuming we're off to Hawaii we go. I need to make sure we're not in the Arctic somewhere. So the topic is staffing and accountability. And I guess you went into a client of yours. It's a well-established client. Mm-hmm. You're there every month. How the hell did this happen? What fish were we frying that this one just got burnt on the back burner that we weren't even aware? Like the kitchen was hot. I'm imagining a episode of Chopped now, you're in there going, how are you? You're on Chopped. You got to move. And how'd you let your stuff burn? Didn't you practice for this? And yet, pot calling the kettle black, I'm like, oh, you'd think I'd be doing this for a while, that my team is always accountable. We are always swimming, floating, steering to Hawaii. And yet, so made me feel kind of like, okay,
start
good.
with the example and then we can
add because this is well-established client, excellent practice. You are and yet you stumbled upon this and you're like, okay.
I stumbled upon it is the exact right word, because I'll kind of explain the scenario so it'll make sense. So in this particular client's office, it is consistently clear communication, very clear expectations. We have regular meeting times, training times. I'm in there on a monthly basis and I'm bringing things to the attention of the team members or to the practice owners. And so this one took me by surprise. In the meeting, I was flabbergasted for a moment. I was like, I don't know how to recover from this, because I had noticed some things when I was basically, there's a document that was created a couple years ago, a financial arrangement document, and this document was pivotal for multiple reasons. I won't divulge all of the reasons why it's pivotal, but it was key in this trajectory that we were trying to take this practice, so much so that when I look back at notes, we had talked about it every single meeting. The doctor was making iterations or edits to this document to make it more usable. It was a big deal. It's a big deal. Really big deal. And so I started doing some auditing because I couldn't figure out this particular number that I was looking into. I was like, I don't understand why this number's off. And so I went and just audited some patients' accounts looking for this particular document. And I was like, wow, that's weird. This financial arrangement document is missing. That's odd. But in the midst of all of this, there's been a software change. And so I'm like, maybe I'm not looking in the right places. And so I got one of the business team members like, will you just be a second set of eyes for me? Are you seeing this document? She's like, no, I don't see that document. And looked at multiple patients' charts. I was like, that's weird. I'm going into this meeting thinking, it's me. I am looking in the wrong place. I can't find this document. What in the heck? Something wrong with me. Much to my surprise, when I brought this up, it's like, hey, just FYI, I'm not seeing this document. Like, I just want to make sure that we're all still on the same page with that. And where are we storing this document so I can find it? Because I couldn't find it. And so the team's like, oh, well, no, we haven't been doing that document because of the software change. We felt like the document in the software, it basically covered that. And I still, like, I'm like, my mind is like, I can't wrap my head around this, because we spent 2 years developing this document, and we talk about it so much, and it's pivotal for so many different reasons. And so I was like, wait, what? Like, maybe I missed a meeting. Was this collectively decided and I just didn't know it? And they're like, well, no. I mean, it was
like,
just...
Who decided? Who decided that the software's version was the equivalent of the sheet that this doctor created and edited and got feedback on and tweaked and then set out the new version and said, hey, guys, this is... Like, I can only imagine how that process played out. And somebody decided, oh, but we don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
And then the rest went along with it, it seems.
Well, and not everybody, because I could tell that they're, like, my rule followers on the team, like, I could hear them saying, like, well, I'm still doing it. And some of the business team members are like, well, we still need it. You know, so I could hear the rumblings. So it's like some people just assumed and then maybe spread that. So there's clear confusion over this. And it was a moment for me where I was smacked in the face with systems are so hard to implement. Something as clear as this, something as pivotal as this, something as, like, this is an office that is so clear in its expectations, and here we are with a confused team. And so it was a reminder for me of how easily things can just go off the tracks. If it's doing it in this practice, how easy it would be.
Well, then that makes me think of, like, the basics of, like, a consent form.
Yeah.
You know, like, even you talking about this, and I don't have whatever document you're talking about in my practice, but it makes me go, are we sure we're getting all our consent forms signed? Are we sure we're getting our treatment plan signed? Are we sure we're getting our HIPAA form signed? Like, what rogue decided one day that they didn't want to do it, or, you know, it made sense to them, and then they probably consulted with another team member and was like, does this make sense to you? Oh, no, we don't need that anymore, and just went rogue. Like, I can so see that happening very easily. So then I start going, okay, are they blaming the software? But to your point, not everybody is doing it. So some people are, some people aren't. Then when, as you're telling me this, I'm like, I don't understand how this could go off the rails. Is it a new person? Was a new person brought in? Was it one person that used to do this and that person retired and now the rest of the team took over? Like, how does this happen?
Yeah, I know.
And they're blaming the software. Mm-hmm. So, but still, like, how are some of the team members doing it and the others not? Like, I'm just kind of confused.
Well, and to your point, this is no new people at this point. So this was not like a staff change and somebody new came in and didn't know that. Like, this is all the same staff. But I think there's something really important here that we need to look at, which is there was a software change. Now, a software change in a dental practice is a big deal. It changes your daily grind. Like, every click you make is different in a day, and that can create some chaos. Now, it may not be software change in a practice, but it could be Sally left, she moved out of state, and Susie replaced her, and that created a moment of chaos. Or our doctor decided, good for her, she decided to take a 2-week vacation, and we were shut down for 2 weeks, and we came back and we forgot what we did, you know. It could be we had this huge influx of new patients. The practice down the street closed down, and all of a sudden we were bombarded with all these new patients. Insert any level of chaos into the practice, and then it can throw us off. And we just forget in that moment what we're doing, why we were doing it. So in this particular situation, I do think that brief moment of chaos, those couple months of
software
change, just we forgot the importance of some things. And so I think it just reminds us that if your practice is in constant chaos, I have plenty of clients that, bless their hearts, they're just, something chaotic is happening every month, and they're in constant like rebound mode, trying to get out of that. And systems are very hard to implement in that type of scenario, or systems are hard to keep in that
So
type
then
of
what
scenario.
is your suggestion for that?
Lots of communication. So in this practice that I'm talking about, there is regular communication. But we hadn't talked about this financial arrangement document in months, because in my mind,
It was set. It was already like...
we've spent 2 years talking about this thing, but we had a massive change. And I think also with change, we end up trying to put out a bunch of different fires. And so we're not even focusing on the basics at that point. We're just focusing on
settling.
Yes, just like control the chaos and bring it back to a level of normal. And so I do think it's important that in our, whatever the typical communication is, whether that's a monthly staff meeting, whether that's a morning huddle where we address everything, whatever the case may be, we need to have some level of consistency in going back and reviewing systems. So are we going back and looking at, business systems? Do we incorporate one of those into each of our monthly staff meetings? Like, hey, we haven't talked about in a quarter, we haven't talked about how we're handling cancellations, no-shows, reminders, appointment reminders. So every quarter, we're going to go back and revisit that. Or, hey, we haven't talked about, consent forms, all of our health history, consents, post-op instructions. So we're going to talk about that in the second month of every quarter. You kind of get the idea.
That sounds awful. Like, that sounds so tedious.
I know.
To me, which is where then I'm like, okay, this is why I've got you, because you're the second set of eyes that are coming in, and you're not. But I can just imagine right now if I went to my team and I was like, okay, guys, let's talk about our protocol for insert whatever. I mean, it's hard enough to do even emergency training.
I know.
Which is why, at least in Texas, they require that once a year. But to me, I'm just like, God, that's so tedious. Like, I just don't want to do it.
I know. It really is the nitty gritty of running a practice, but it's interesting. I think from my vantage point, like when I get incorporated into a practice, new, fresh, I'm seeing the results of inconsistency. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like, wow, our production per patient has dipped the last 3 years. We're on a decline with our productivity per patient. Yeah, your production has stayed the same, but you're having to see, 100 more patients every year to be able to keep that same production. Like, oh wow, what is off? And when we start to go back and dig, it's all these little systems that have gone off the rails. Like, oh wow, we're less productive per patient because our treatment acceptance has been declining over the past 3 years. Why? What happened to that financial arrangement document that we used to do 3 years ago that got people to move forward with treatment? Where I thought we were doing that. Oh, we haven't been doing that for 3 years? What? So I can see it from a different vantage point, and I know that when we get off track, if we are off track long enough, it leads to a negative result. And so it does feel like, oh, this is so tedious. And the frequency can be tailored to the needs of the practice or the needs of the meeting frequency. But to me, we've got to have some level of coming back and revisiting what are our systems on this.
Well, and I feel like that's how it ends up happening is you stumble ass backwards on something where you're like, wait, where is this, or why is this? So maybe that's another thing, like maybe all the assistance before, well, I was going to say before treatment, but the treatment may not be there if they didn't get the financial arrangements worked out and the patient never scheduled. At some point, maybe that needs to be like, who else could have caught this if it wasn't you? Yeah. And I mentioned this in a podcast, recently, but it was, you and I talked about starting to boost Facebook posts for marketing. And then something happened where it made me think about it randomly, and I'm like, okay guys, are we still doing this? Or whatever question I asked, we never started doing it. Like somebody dropped the ball, and I'm like, I'm assuming for the last 5 months, like we spent a lot of time talking about this and who was going to do it and how they were going to do it and the training for it, and it just never got done. And so I'm like, even with all that clear communication, I stumbled ass backwards into, what do you mean we're not doing this? And so I guess that's kind of the point of this podcast, is how do we follow up, I guess, maybe on these things, and how can we minimize the number of things that go off the rails that we didn't know. And so I think what you're saying is maybe intentionally, proactively, maybe sit down and kind of create your reminders. It's there's a dental compliance, I forget what he's called, dental compliance is his company, but Tink, like that's what he does every year, every month. He is getting together with the team to go, okay, let's go over your drug kit. Like, what do you have in there? Okay, this month we're going over your radiology binder. This month we're going over your HIPAA binder. Did everybody sign what they needed to sign? This month we're doing, so like, that's what, as an owner, I'm paying you, Tink, whoever else, to come in and help me, because there's just no way I can keep up with it. But if you don't have those resources, if you can afford it and you're not investing in it, shame on you. If you can't afford it yet, then that's all on you. Best of luck to you, friend. But maybe that's where you're sitting down on a day and going, okay, I'm going to make a list of all these systems and things that I need to be doing, and going ahead and putting it in my schedule, planning it out for the next couple of months. Like, what are we going to revisit? I know we talk about every year about revisiting our policy manual every year. We talk about revisiting our paperwork. Because inevitably things will change and the paperwork's outdated. We're like, we just had that the other day. We discovered that our sheet for whatever it is that we've got still has operating room privileges. Well, I quit doing that after COVID. I haven't gone to the operating room since 2020. And so we need to update our form, and we just kind of quit looking at that. So I think thinking about all that, and I think the second takeaway, I would say, which you just mentioned, is anytime you've got a moment of chaos. So anytime something major changes, a staff member changes, and or even if it's the staff didn't change, but what if like Sweet Sally's grandma passed away, or Sweet Sally's going through a divorce? That guaranteed personal life will impact professional
100%.
Life.
Yes.
And so if you've had that, or me, like being out almost the whole month of February, I haven't been there. I was helping aging parent with all of these like health issues. So now, like, a lot of the things that maybe I was taking care of, I need to go back and say, like, what was my system and routine, because I'm off my game right now. So just kind of being aware of those moments of, we've had transition, and so to assume that your systems are A, still working, B, still being executed appropriately is a very dangerous way to proceed.
Absolutely. And to me, it's all about, when you start really thinking about everything that requires follow-up, it can be overwhelming. And to me, it's use the systems that you have in place. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you have a monthly team meeting, that is your spot. Now it's just a matter of plugging in the topics. Look at the year and go, I've got 12 monthly meetings. Okay, what are all the systems that I want to make sure to follow up on? I'm going to plug in one of those, each month throughout the year. There's so many great resources now. One of the real basic things that I utilize with my team is we each have an Outlook account, an Outlook email, and on that there's a fantastic task list. I can pull up my task list at any time. My team can add to my task list, so they can go and put a reminder for me on there. They can set a due date reminder. I can add to my team's task list, hey, so-and-so, do this, put a due date. There can be reminders set up for that. But I can also view. They can view my task list. I can view their task list. There's multiple, like there's one for each of my assistants. It's such a great platform for us being able to communicate on a regular basis. So even beyond like adding system review into the annual plan, it can even be, oh shoot, have we done our CPR. When's our CPR certification due, and who are we using for that? Oh, sweet Sally, I'm adding a task to your task list, and Sally knows she needs to look at that task list on a daily basis. Go figure out when our CPR is due. If due, set up the CPR class and loop me back in. So even just setting up ways to be able to pass off tasks as random little things pop into your mind. Oh shoot, have we done that? Rather than having to call a meeting and figure out, you've just got a platform to be able to communicate those kind of tasks with. It doesn't have to be Outlook. Practice management softwares have task lists that you can utilize. Whatever the case may be, set up the system so that everybody knows to be checking their...
Communication is the point. Find your way of communicating. Okay, so I'm going to take this in a little different direction now. So what if it is somebody who, like this, we're going to blame the software here.
Yeah.
But accountability is the sticking point for dental drama, right? And so I think kind of, have we determined for this scenario, we don't think it was like a staff member just going,
oh no.
This was literally the software, somebody probably just kind of being a little dumb.
Yeah.
And
they're like, oh, this
making
is...
some assumptions.
They made assumptions because in the software, at the bottom of the treatment plan, it lists one sentence about each of the 4 options that are fully represented on the financial arrangement document. They looked at it, they're like, oh, that's the same information. Now, the document that was created was a 2-year process of iteration. So to look at the 4 sentences on the treatment plan and go, oh yeah, there it is, that's the same thing. It's a little bit mind-blowing to me, but whatever. I get it. They thought it was the same information and that the financial arrangement document would be a duplicate of that. So they didn't want to do duplicate documents.
Which I think happens all the time.
Absolutely.
And that's where, I guess for me, I think we've got, you need to go back and look at your team members, I guess is what I would say. Because the whole, again, knocking on my head right now, I don't think we've got said people now. But I feel like last year when we had, at least 2 more employees, and we were constantly going, we talked about this. We had a 3-hour meeting about this. We had a follow-up email. Like the communication there's nothing more we could have done from a communication standpoint. It turns out that it was one person who thought she was being more efficient. And she would be the one I could almost see being like, oh, it's the same page here. I'm going to save the doc paper, the doctor from having to do this other sheet. Look, it's right here. And just carry on thinking she was doing something smart. And the rest of us are like, no, back up. But trying to catch her going rogue because she thought she was being efficient. And then we had another one that was lazy. She just don't want to do it. I don't want to fill out that form. So this form has it. I'm not going to do it. And that's that. So I think in our case, now we are to where I get nervous because we don't have the extra person. I've always been kind of an extra person mindset. And since last September, October, whatever it was, we've not. But dare I say, I think we're still going to Hawaii. I need to stop and I guess look back at that. But it's almost like the fewer cooks in the kitchen made the difference because now the communication is easier. There's not like, if one person was confused and going, oh, could this be the replacement to that? And she only has one other person to turn to, and that person's going to go, what if that person goes, yeah, we don't need that other sheet? Well, there's still like the manager or myself. There's very few people there that we can very easily go quickly notice and go, wait, what did y'all do with that? Nope, this is not at all the same. Yep. Versus when there were 4 people up at the front, now you've got 2 others, maybe 3 of y'all are going, oh yeah, that makes sense to us. This is what we're going to do. Great. And change the direction without checking with the captain if that was okay to do. So it might just be a numbers thing for one, but I think more to the point for us, it wasn't just numbers. It was the quality of the people making these changes and the reasons they were making those changes. And we don't have that now. Yeah. And I think the people that we've got now are going, there's a method to the madness here. And so if we're about to make this change, we better at least, fine if you don't want to seek the opinion. If you're going, nope, I'm the expert of the front desk. Doc said that we can make our decisions. But at least if you're communicating that this is what you're doing. And we've got that now.
Yes.
So we don't have any rogue players at the moment. Now, again, that's my assumption. I guess I need to maybe make sure we're not in the Arctic, and I'm not sure. But I don't think we are.
Right.
But I think it's also a smaller group. Could I get myself in trouble now because I don't have the extra people?
Right.
So if somebody gets sick and is out, or somebody's husband moves, I'm going to be up a creek. But for now, I think we are still going to Hawaii.
Yeah. I think you bring up a super solid point here that needs to be mentioned clearly on this. Part of system execution is looking at, do I have people that can execute the system? And there's a million different reasons why they might not be able to. It's too complex of a system, and they're never going to get it, which we've had those situations before. They think they're smarter than the system, and so they're going to constantly be breaking the rules, so to speak, and doing their own thing. They're forgetful, or they have their own dramatic life that they're on reset every day. Like every day they come in, they've just experienced, World War III at home, and so they're coming in and they're having to reset every single day.
Or is it the doctor communication? Does it start at the doc? Did you say one thing, but you're doing another?
Yeah.
And so that's where I've been guilty of that so many times. I'm like, no, this is what we're going to do. And then a quote exception comes up, and I'm like, well, and so now I've thrown us off course, because now people are like, oh, if there's an exception, then maybe this is an exception. That's an exception. So like sticking to the protocol.
Yeah.
And so it could be any of those scenarios that throw you off.
It really could be. And so to me, the communication and setting up the clear expectations is on the practice owner. Like, you have to ensure that you've got a clear course, and that communication is being very, like, we're going in this direction, we're rowing to this destination, and here's how we're going to do it. That to me is on the onus of the practice owner. The follow through is, let's make sure you got the right shipmates on the boat, and when they start going off course, that you have protocols in place to huddle back up and go, no, remember, this is what we talked about. Here's the documentation of what we talked about. So not just we had this team meeting where we were all there and we all discussed it. Who took notes on that? Who has a document that shows, no, this is what we decided upon? Because that can also create some chaos, which is what I asked this team. I was like, but what meeting did we talk about this? When did we collectively decide that? Maybe I missed that meeting, which I was honestly asking. There was no documentation. So we've got to have, because our memory fails us. Even as the practice owner, our memory can fail us. Let's go back to that meeting where we discussed that, and let's look at the notes and make sure that we are all on the same page.
Which is then now another point. Did you take notes? Exactly. And who read the notes? Who took the notes? Like, did they put down what they thought they heard? Did they,
Yep.
That's a whole nother tedious thing to do.
Yep. You got to make sure that you've got somebody assigned to take the notes, that person is capable of taking accurate notes. And then how are we disseminating those notes afterwards? Because it's one thing to all hear it and, oh, great, Sally, our note taker, took tedious notes. Thank you, Sally. But nobody ever looked at the notes.
I think that's almost 1,000%. Like, nobody ever looks at the notes. Like, we do our due diligence to print them. We put them in a binder. Sometimes we'll email them. Sometimes we'll post them. And I think it's all a waste of paper. But at least I've still got something to say, go back to that.
Yep.
Go back to that, yeah.
Yeah. And if you've got one of your team members that is just a naturally inconsistent person. Like, my husband's one of these people. It's amazing. Every day looks different for him. Where he puts his keys is different. How he packs the lunch is different. What time he leaves the house is different. It drives me absolutely batty. But for him, it works. He would be the guy that it's like, you roll out the system, you're like, yeah, let's do it. And he's going to be your cheerleader. He's like, I love this system, let's do it. And then never implements it. Okay, well, that person, you may have to say, my expectation is those notes are disseminated. Your job is to go and review those notes every time. Everybody else can get away without reviewing it because they remember it and they're just natural implementers. You, buddy, you got to go back and read the notes, okay? So find your person that has trouble implementing systems, and then you're communicating specifically with that person and going, hey, I'm actually doing the notes for your benefit, so read them. And read them multiple times a month if you have to.
Or make your own, like rewrite them in the color that you want on the paper that you want, and keep that paper in your pocket. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, accountability. Anything else that you can
Well,
think of?
I think I kind of disappointed myself here in this episode because I thought it was going to be more meaty drama. Like it was Sweet Sally that was like, I'm not doing this. So I may have teed us up for like drama, and there was none.
Oh, there's plenty of drama associated with this. So, especially when you got the great implementer paired with the one paired with my husband, that creates real good drama on the team.
Ooh, so to be a fly on the wall in your house.
Oh, it's fun. It's dramatic all the time.
Thanks for joining the conversation today. We hope that you are comforted in knowing that you are not alone, but we also hope that you're walking away with some really great tips and tricks to try in your practice. We value your feedback, so please take a few moments to rate and review the podcast. Finally, we want to make sure that we're covering the topics that matter to you. So track us down on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and let us know what topics you want us to cover. As always, please know that we are rooting for you today as you manage your dental drama.